Hello, everyone. Welcome to this version, this episode of Tech Tuesday. It's a beautiful Tuesday outside. It's hot, but we're glad to be here. We're thankful for all of you that have joined us on today. Today, we're going to talk about ServiceNow, the new service portal to here at UNCP, and we got some help today. Co-host, so you don't have to listen to me talk the whole time. Mr. Gabe Campbell is going to be here to take you through the rundown of some of the workings and inner dealings of ServiceNow. I'm going to turn it over to Gabe.
All right, thanks. Hi, everybody. Can everybody hear me? Yep. All right. So ServiceNow replaced Avanti, which we affectionately called Heat. It was an older name for it, as our ticketing system earlier this year. We've completed the implementation project at this point, and now we're just trying to share the word of how it works. The purpose of this one is going to be more from like the campus user perspective, not from the IT side. But I see there's a lot of IT people on the call, but hopefully this will help you in understanding what the clients are going to see as well. Um, so let's go ahead and get started. Let me share my screen. All right. Everyone see my screen? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is our UNCP homepage. So the way that you as a campus user would get to ServiceNow would be most easily done from quick links on the main page. And if you scroll down to ITSM self-service and click that link, that'll get you to the portal. Go ahead and pull that up. So this is our service portal. So service portal is basically the way that you can see and interact with DoIT. So you can see I'm not logged in yet. So this is kind of what you see. If you can't sign in, there is an option here where you could still get help and request it through the web page. So if I were to click this, it'll ask me for some information, my name, my email address, phone number. This is so we can contact you. And then whatever problem you're having, you can put there and click submit. Um, for the 95% of people, what you actually want to do on this page is log in. So I'll go ahead and do that. This uses the same single sign-on provider that we use for email and Outlook and everything else. So if you signed into any other service at the university that uses that sign-in provider, it will automatically log you in. So you see I didn't have to type in my password and everything here. So what we're looking at here is basically the dashboard, and this is my personal view of it. So for a lot of campus users, you may not have this My Approvals section down here, unless if you are set up to do approvals. If you're a data steward or if you're NIT or something else, you may have an approval section that shows up. So a quick view of this up at the top is kind of your navigation bar. At any time, you can click this little logo to get back to this main page. Just the UNCP Pembroke in the top left. You've also got some other navigation areas here. So knowledge, catalog, request, cart, and then your little name. There's a search box here in the middle. One of the best ways to use ServiceNow is to search for the things you're looking for, and we'll go through that in a moment. And then you've got these three main navigation areas here. So you've got a service catalog, which is essentially what we used to call service requests in the old system. This is where you would go to request something that you do not have today. So this would be something new. So let's say that I wanted to request access, or I wanted to purchase something, I would go here because I don't have that today. Or if I wanted to request a shared mailbox for my department, that would be here. Or a loaner laptop that I don't have today, that's this. All right. Knowledge base is just what it sounds like. That's where we have some knowledge base articles. This is still an area of active development. So when we click to that in a few moments, you'll see there are some knowledge articles there, and it continues to grow. Every week or two, we put out a couple more knowledge articles based on the types of issues we're seeing. The final section over here on the right is get help, and that's where you would say, I had something that used to work, but it doesn't anymore. So something is broken. So that's kind of the way to distinguish between requesting something new that I didn't used to have versus something that used to work doesn't work right anymore. That's the difference between those two. All right, so you'll also see down here at the bottom, we've got my open requests. So again, those are tied kind of to the service catalog. These are things that you're requesting new. You can see I personally have requested a lot of shared mailboxes lately. Over here on the right are my open incidents. So these are things that were broken. So we recently had some wireless connectivity issues. So there's a ticket where I reported that to our networking team and a few others. And then here in the middle, I don't have any approvals pending right now. If I did, they would be here. Then we have announcements. So if I were to expand this out, it's just an announcement that says our walk-up help desk has moved to West Hall. So if you haven't seen our new help desk, feel free to stop by and check it out. Since I am in IT, I'm going to do what's called impersonate another user, and I'm going to impersonate my wife, who is also on this call. So let me do that very quickly and refresh the page. So this is what it looks like from her perspective. So you can see the only thing that's really different here, she doesn't have an approval section. At the top, she has this banner, and this is tied to the announcement that we saw down here. It just says our walk-up help desk is moved. So this is kind of just a way for you to get important information right up here at the top. In the future, this may be used for other purposes, like if we know there's an outage, we may be able to use this kind of a thing for that. All right. So are there any questions before I start diving into the different sections? I want this to kind of be interactive, so please feel free at any time if you have questions to interrupt. I have no problem with that.
Mr. Campbell, am I going to have to reset my password now that it's been hacked?
No. So
Okay,
the way
good.
I impersonate doesn't require me to type in her password. So, okay. So let's go ahead and go through what this actually looks like. All right. So the first thing we'll do is a request. So you can see I did submit a request for training, and we'll look at that in a moment. Service catalog, again, is something I want something that I don't currently have today. So the types of things you see here are going to be things like account creation. If I was a department chair and I had a new part-time staff member coming in and I need to create an account for them, that would be where you would do that. This is also where if any of you are supervisors, the day one hire or new hire day one needs is going to be here. What we're looking at right here are popular items. These are the ones that get filled out the most. There's a lot more than this. So you can see it's categorized over on the left. And so I could click on one of these to see things that are related to that category. I just can click through them to see what they are. Let's say though that I wanted to purchase something. So if I click on purchasing as a category, there's a lot of stuff mixed up here, but you can expand it and then you can pick the subcategories. So if I needed to purchase a departmental cell phone or something, or one of these mobile hotspots, I could do that here. Likewise for cell phone accessories, or if I wanted to order a desk phone. And let's say that I did want to order a desk phone. Let's say I want this one because it's the recommended model. All I would do is just click it. And then I would verify the information here. By default, it will fill out whoever you're signed in as. So if you're requesting it for yourself, that's fine. But you should update for this one. If I'm purchasing it for someone else in my department, I would want to make sure their information was here. Then I could pick the location. So let's just say Oxendine. I don't know the actual office. We'll just say 1236, which I think is actually a classroom. That's fine. Won't be part of a call center phone code. I don't know what it actually would be. You should know that if you're purchasing a phone. And then we'll say that it's a brand new phone. It's not replacing an existing one. And so for a few of our items, like things that are purchasable, like a phone or a cell phone or accessories, you have the option to add to a cart. For the vast majority of things, so if I go back and instead choose a training, so I find it's easy to just search up here. Then I just have a request. There's not an add to cart option. So you would want to use the add to cart if you were going to purchase, say, a departmental cell phone, and then you needed to get a case for it, and maybe some of the other options there, or you were going to get multiple desk phones for multiple people in your department. You could add them to the cart and check out at once. For the vast majority of things that people request, like for this one, it's going to be a request button. So let's just request training. Let's say that I want to learn how to use Microsoft, if I could type, let's say Excel 365, because that's the new version. I need to know how to use this software for my research. And you'll also see that in the vast majority of these, if it was relevant, there is a way to add an attachment. So if there was some particular part of Excel that I wanted to do, or if I had something that I wanted to just make sure was included in the request, I could do that here. So then I request this. So that request is now out there. Okay. So this is kind of just the summary here. So that's how you submit a request. We'll look at, when we get a little further in, how to actually view the status of your open request and incidents. I just kind of want to go through the top categories quickly. Are there any questions about how to submit a request or what you would do when you got there? All right. Again, feel free to interrupt me at any time. So the next section as we go across is knowledge base. So you can click knowledge base and you can search through the different options that we have available. Again, it's got categories, it's got the top rated articles, the most viewed articles. But I find that knowledge works best when you're just searching for something. So Examity is something that is new. It's a proctoring tool that we've just started this semester. And so if I were to search for Examity, I would see, okay, well, there's 3 things out here. So with my wife as a biology faculty member in mind, maybe I want to see the tips for instructors. So I could click this, I could view the article, I could view the information and say, okay, well, that's great. That makes sense to me. And I could say, yes, it was helpful, or no, it was not. I could rate it if I wanted. If, let's say, I had some other faculty members that I wanted to share this with, I could click copy permalink. That just copies a link to this no matter how many times it gets updated. And then I could paste that link and they could go right to it. So if I were to paste it here, see, it takes me right back to this link. So knowledge is great because, again, we're still developing some of the stuff that's out here, but the real place knowledge comes in handy is when I submit an incident. So we can come back to knowledge, but let's move on to the get help. So again, something's broken that used to work, or I just need help with something and I don't really know what to do. So this creates an incident. And again, an incident typically means something's broken, but let's say that I have something it's not super important, so I'll say low urgency. And let's say that I need help with Examity. So you're going to notice a few things. When I start typing in here, it's going to have search results that show up that give you things that may be useful to what you're searching for. So if I look at these at a glance, these first few things with the shopping carts are requests or service catalog items. So I know that new hire day 1 needs doesn't really apply to me. A request for training might. If I needed help with learning how to use Examity, that might be helpful to click the order button on. New hire day 1 doesn't, but oh, here's a knowledge article that shows me about setting up Examity in a course. So let's click that. So this kind of shows me the details. Let's say, oh, this is exactly what I was looking for. This is how I set it up in my course. Then I could check this box that says this was helpful. And I could click submit if I needed to, or if that's all I needed, I don't have to do anything. I can just close out of the page. All right, let's say that this is not exactly everything I needed. Let's say that there was, let's just say the one-click option didn't work for my course. All right, so then I could submit this incident. All right. So this is, again, a little view of what the incident looks like. That incident's been submitted. As it gets updated, this will update. So on my other screen that I'm not sharing, let me find this incident that was just created. So give me 1 second here. All right. And so let's say our help desk picks this up very quickly and we say, okay, we're getting it categorized now. So again, this is not something you would have to see. And then I click save. So you'll notice as soon as I click save on my other screen, it immediately updates this page if I was looking at it. And it now says it's assigned to me. All right, so let's say that the help desk puts in a comment here and says, which course? And then in real time, it'll pop up here on the screen that I'm looking at and show me this. Now, again, this is not intended to be a real-time chat situation. If you have a really urgent issue, you should always call the help desk. Being able to speak to somebody will get you faster response, especially if it's an issue with a classroom. But this is just kind of showing off the responsiveness of our new tool. Let's say that in the meantime, more time actually passed than happened in our little session here. Let's say that, oh, I actually figured this out on my own. So while I'm looking at it, I can come up here to actions and I can go ahead and resolve this incident. Because I don't need help with it anymore. All right, so that incident's now been resolved. The technician that was assigned to it, which is me, will get an email saying the clients resolved this issue themselves. You no longer need to work on it. It'll disappear from my queue and in the ServiceNow from my side. So that's kind of a way that you can take charge of your own incidents. Let's say that, oh no, actually I thought I had it fixed, but I don't. I now have an option to come up here to actions, and you can do this with any incident. So if you have an incident that was closed that you really are still having trouble with, if you find it under the My Request section, and while it's still in the resolved state here, you can say the incident was not resolved, and then just say, it's really still broken. And that will reopen it and put it back in my queue. All right. So are there any questions about that? Every once in a while, especially during the start of school, it's easy for, an incident. We may think we've got something fixed and then a couple days go by and the issue comes back. It's not really resolved. If that happens, you're welcome to open a new incident, or you can go to the original one and you can reopen it from the actions menu here. So that's great, right? This one came up for us automatically. So how would we get to this if I hadn't just opened the incident? So at any time, you can check the status of your open requests from this page by either clicking the links down here in the bottom, or if you come up here to the top where it says My Requests, it will show them all together. So you can see right now, it's showing me the ones that are open, and these are all ones that I have created. If I wanted to see the ones that were already closed, I can choose that. So you can see she just has a couple tickets open or that have been closed now a couple months ago. But let's say that for this request for training that I submitted shortly before our session, I said that I wanted to, let me actually go back to this for a second.
I have
So
a question.
yes,
So if we call or email DoIT, they'll put the ticket in there, right? And then we can access it through this menu. How long does it typically take for that to start, like, to happen?
it can depend on, like, you mean for someone to resolve the incident that you've opened?
No, like if I emailed it, like to be able to see it in this menu.
So if you email from your UNCP account, which is always what we would recommend, it will start showing up in your menu as soon as it's processed. So as soon as you get the autoresponder from ServiceNow saying, hey, a new incident's been
Oh,
created in
okay,
your
then
name.
it's in there.
So it's not exactly instant, but it's usually within 60 seconds or so of your email that happens.
Is it a
Um,
person doing it or is it automated?
Emails are automated, so it will automatically create them and it'll put them in a service desk queue for a full-time person to go in and properly categorize and assign.
Okay.
So this particular one that I have here, that's a good question, is a request. This is the request for training. So for requests, they have different stages, and different types of requests have different types of stages. For request for training, it's a very simple one, which is why I submitted that one. Request approved is usually the starting point. Fulfillment means that now it's in progress. I mean, it kind of gives you the little summary there. Complete means it's been finished. If I were to click request for training here, I can see more details. And so I can see, okay, well, this is when I created it about an hour ago. About 33 minutes ago, the technician, which also happens to be me, says, when are you available for a session on Zoom? So, there's a lot more information here. If I were to click on attachments, I could see any attachments that I had put in there. If I needed to submit a screenshot or something related to this, I could just drag it in here. If I wanted to see the original details, if I go to the additional details, I can see all the stuff I put in that form. So I can see that, I left it as Caitlin, because that's who I was impersonating at the time. The type of training that I requested, the specific application was Zoom. And then I just said in the notes, I want to learn more about how Zoom works in a Cisco classroom. All right. So I chose this because this is a request that actually came in fairly recently. So going back to the activity tab, I can see that the technician has asked me, when am I available? So I could just say, available Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from 12 to 4. And then when the technician replies, then we can get a meeting scheduled, we can do the training, and then once that's all finished, this request will be fulfilled and it will close out. So let's go back and let's look at what it looks like for an incident instead. So a little helpful tip, if you're trying to quickly at a glance determine which is which, if you look at the numbers, incidents are going to always have INC at the beginning. Requests are going to start with REQ. That's just kind of a way to see it. So this is another incident that I made earlier about the computer in my classroom doesn't show up on the projector. Again, I don't know why I decided to go so classroom centric on these interactions, but again, you can see that I submitted that as Caitlin. As a technician, I replied and said, which classroom are you teaching in? So I could just say Oxendine 2250, which I think is a classroom. All right, so the technician will get an email when I put in a comment here that says a new comment has been added to the incident and what the comment was, and then the technician could go into ServiceNow and update the incident to have that proper location and then dispatch as appropriate. So are there any questions about how to view the status of your request or how to reopen them if they get closed too soon, or how to close them yourselves if it's no longer an issue? All right. So that's kind of at a high level, the overview. The only other thing, I know I mentioned, knowledge is up here. This is the same link as if you click knowledge base here. Catalog is the same thing as service catalog. Get help. It's just a shortcut to take you to the create an incident thing in the catalog, but you can also find it in the service catalog if you were browsing here. The only other thing that I'll show that may be relevant to some people on campus is this last category, incident and project request. Create incident is the same thing as get help, so it's fine if you go in this way or the other way. The other thing here is a project request form. So if you're involved in submitting a formal project to DoIT, this is where you could submit that formally to us. So there is a lot of information in here because projects are large scale initiatives typically. The ones with the asterisk mean that it's a required field, and there are a lot that are not required but optional. So if you have this information when you're filling this out, include it. But if you don't have it, it won't stop you from submitting it. So does that make sense? So there's some things like you're going to have to put in a name of a project. It has to have the requester, which is you by default, in some of this stuff. But if I don't know the business outcome section or the impact at the time of submitting it, that won't stop me from submitting it. We can collect those details later in the project process. So there's other ones out there in the service catalog that can be more complex and require more things. If there's any particular catalog item that anyone wants to see, we can cover it. Or if there's any other questions about ServiceNow, we can go through those now. I know we're getting close to the end of our session today. From the IT folks that are on the call, is there anything that I did not cover that you think that we should tell campus users.
I think you're good.
All right. Well, I think that's all I have, James. I think we can go ahead and close out.
Sounds great. Thanks, man. That was a good session. I learned a couple of things on there too. And Miss Gloria Hunt did as well. She had to leave early for another meeting. But thanks to everybody for coming. And if you want to see more of these type events, be sure to visit our website at uncp.edu/DOIT and under technology training. Thanks again. We'll see you next week on Text Tuesday.